Yeah, I think we'll just get started. If anyone joins in, they can just beep in. So hello, for those of you who haven't met me, my name's Debbie Shields, and I'm the current president of Scottish Women in Business. Um, and what we are kind of hoping to do, or trying to do a bit more, is have our members come along, especially during lockdown, and hear a bit about their stories and their journey, and I guess to kind of introduce people to each other, but also just to find out a little bit more about our members. So I'm really, really pleased that Baylie has joined us today from Dechomai Events. And I think, there's two kind of reasons that we wanted to invite her along. And one was to find out her story as she's a member, find out about why she joined SWIB, and also kind of a bit of her journey. But also, I think it's a interesting time just to talk about the Black Lives Matter sort of campaigning that's gone on recently. And I know there's sort of lots to discuss for both of those things. And it's just really great that you agreed to come along and join us. So welcome. This is the first event I think I've been at with you as well, so it's nice to see you. But it'd be really great if you would maybe just kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Bayle Adeoti. I'm the Managing Director of Dechomai. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a church leader, and I'm an entrepreneur. That's what I've always had ingrained in me. So I wanted to share that the first 3 jobs I ever had were always in hospitality. I started off as a kitchen porter at 2 places in the West End. And then when I turned 16, my father thought the best job I could have was to work in McDonald's. He was like, it's better pay McDonald's and there's job security in McDonald's. So I went to McDonald's as this bright-eyed 16-year-old, thinking it's just a Saturday, Sunday job, 8 hours here and there, and that's it. What I didn't realize was McDonald's actually had other plans for me, and they have other plans for their employees. And this was years ago. I don't know what they're like now, but then McDonald's always saw you to have potential to do anything and to achieve anything. So as soon as I started working for McDonald's, they started inviting me to training for managerial roles and training just to upgrade my skills. And this was something that I just never expected. And I would say, and I still say, McDonald's is the best job I've ever had, apart from this one.
I think that's really interesting. So I work as a recruiter, and I have done for 10 years or so. And very early on in my career, I used to recruit into call centres at different levels. And anyone who came to us who worked at McDonald's, I instantly wanted to see them because the training is just so good. And there's a kind of certain level of training and stuff I think you get. So it's really nice to hear that, that's you're still one of your kind of favourite jobs after a bit of time as well. And very different from the job you've got at the moment.
Well, very different, but it also did inspire me when it came to Dechomai. So Dechomai is a social enterprise, and we started off as trying to meet the need for the lack of diversity in the hospitality industry, especially for BME women, lack of progression and also lack of opportunities afforded to them. So Dechomai is Greek, and it means to receive people with open arms, open hearts and open minds, and going above gracious hospitality. So I thought it was quite apt for a name, considering what we do. And it was just, when I saw the way McDonald's operated, and I've always used McDonald's as case studies for anything when it comes to a business case study. And then when I look at what's available in Scotland at the moment in the hospitality industry, that's what I used as a comparison, and that's what helped me start up Dechomai. It was the lack of opportunities available, and even the leadership roles available for women from Black and ethnic minorities.
Okay, so maybe you want to give us a little bit of information then about Dechomai and the kind of things you do just now, and how you kind of came up with it.
So I've got a background working in marketing, and that's fashion marketing, but also hospitality marketing. So when I realized that there was a need, I spotted this need in the hospitality industry for lack of diversity, I looked into starting up a social enterprise. This has been a 10-year dream, having a social enterprise. And I started doing pilot schemes, pilot events, and just to test it to see if there were opportunities. I initially wanted to work with the third sector to help put on events and create opportunities for women through events in the third sector, but it did expand to more private events and corporate events, and we started taking on clients, and then we registered it 2 years ago as a social enterprise and were awarded funding through First Port, who had been behind Dechomai for a year previously, but they were also like, will this work? Will this model succeed? And they saw all the things, the revenue generated, and they awarded us our initial lot of funding. And we were able to put on events. We've got clients who are private clients who want us to do things like weddings, baby showers. Then we've also got charity clients who have us on retainer to do any fundraisers for them, and that's fundraisers for a sit-down meal for 170 people. And then we've just got hospitality clients who have us doing their operations and marketing side. So there is different streams to Dechomai.
Yeah, and I think I've been involved in a number of charities myself through my kind of day job, but also in terms of my personal life, I sit on a couple of boards, and I know it's not easy to start a social enterprise. So what were there any challenges or blockers along the way that you faced?
There were lots of challenges, especially for this social enterprise. There was, whenever I spoke to people, they always said to me, but is there an actual need? Are you the only one that's faced this barrier to progression in the hospitality industry? So it was, when I was starting it up, I had to open it up a bit more to maybe women, especially women from low skilled backgrounds, to upskill them. And I think the Black Lives Matter issue has opened up conversations and has made people say, right, okay, I get what you mean now, that there are maybe unspoken challenges that people have faced, but they've just not spoken up about them in the hospitality industry and other industries. And now they're becoming more aware of the need that I identified about 5 years ago.
And I think it's quite difficult getting people to buy into something or believe something that they maybe don't understand or haven't faced themselves, or it's not always something that's seen as it can kind of go on behind the scenes and stuff like that. So how did you overcome that kind of thing? You know, how did you convince people that your idea was relevant and a good one to progress with?
I think when it comes to something like that, you always need to start off from where walk in the person's shoes and try and approach it from where they're at, rather than from where you're at. So I looked at them and saw the need that, yeah, it's actually, as a whole, I'm sure every single woman on this call can identify the fact that they have experienced barriers and they have experienced maybe lack of opportunity and not been afforded opportunities. So I did take a step back and think, okay, it is actually women I'm starting off at, and that's my starting point. And it's to give women the opportunities to get into employment, but also low-skilled work as low-skilled women, but mainly women from Black and ethnic minorities. So I never forgot the why, and that was women from Black and ethnic minorities, but also remembering that it's women as a whole who experience the barriers and the challenges. And from there on, it was easier to get everyone on board and to also get people behind it. Obviously, as you said, that with social enterprises, it is a bit harder to start up and everything. So I will tell you that I had, with First Port, they knocked me back 3 times for my funding application. And it was on the 4th application that they did award me. But once again, it comes down to the resilience of an entrepreneur too, whether you will keep going and whether that initial funding, I was doing it. I was just told, get this funding. Yes, it was helpful. Yes, it helped move Dechomai forward, but it was never going to stop Dechomai moving forward. It was just an added bonus, the cherry on top.
Okay, and then someone's just put in the chat Well, say first of all, well done for sticking in there and going for it 4 times. Lots of people probably would be put off. But Jen Wilson is asking, why did you decide to go down the social enterprise route instead of some other way?
Um, I think I've always liked the social enterprise model. I've liked the fact that it's a balance between a charity and an enterprise, and I guess it's the best of both worlds. So I wanted something that empowered people. I didn't feel as if it was enough to be a business that donated into a cause. I wanted Dechomai to also be walking the walk and talking the talk, so doing the two in tangent and empowering women as we went along too.
Okay. And what's been a particular highlight for you so far on your journey with Dechomai?
Well, the highlight, I would say, one of the things that we're doing in September is one of the things that I've always wanted was to do enterprise workshops to help other women set up enterprises. And as of September, we're able to do that. So we've got 12 workshops starting from the 2nd of September for women from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds. So that has been the highlight, but also just meeting other women, other like-minded women who encourage us on this journey, who help move us forward, and just even just people who encourage us and cheer us on. 2 of my board members are men, but they're our biggest cheerleaders. They just never stop. They're always on the phone and checking up on me, like mentally and emotionally, but also checking up on the enterprise and trying to move it forward. So I think that's the highlight, is meeting people that will help cheer you on.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, especially in that sector, to know to make sure you've got a board there who are supportive and relevant. And how did you go about sourcing those board members?
So um, my advisory board member, I'd actually wanted him to be on my board, and we both came down to the decision that it was best that he was an advisor on the board, and that way he could help me a bit more. He is on other boards for other social enterprises and charities, and he's realised where his strengths are, and his strengths are probably more the advisor. So the other board members were people that I had known that had also supported the vision for Dechomai, and also one of the board members, Stuart Kashmiri, he's a director. He's directed the TV programme Black and Scottish, and it's featured, it's still on BBC iPlayer if anyone wants to catch it. And we've always, Stuart and I have grown up together, and we've always had this vision about empowering people from Black backgrounds into every single sector. And for Stuart, his passion is for technology and also the creative industry. So it was like a match made in heaven, us coming together. And then my other board members got admin and HR experience. So that's something that I always need help with. And yeah, it was just, once again, it was somebody that I've known for a while. But going forward, that is actually something that we're wanting to do, is expand on our board members so that there is a bit more of a balance and there's more people feeding into Dechomai and helping Dechomai move forward to the next stage.
Yeah, I guess maybe leading us on there, what's your kind of vision for Dechomai overall? Obviously, you're quite early in the kind of company's journey, but what do you how do you see yourself growing? Is that part of the plan?
Yeah, so short-term goals, over the next 3 months, we plan to hire 2 part-time members of staff, recruit more board members, and we are also looking to go into schools to be role models. I've been speaking to the Education Partnership for Glasgow and the surrounding, the surrounding localities. So we're looking to get into schools with role models. Long term, we're wanting our own space for training, and that's something that we've always wanted, to have our space for training, for hospitality, and just a space to get people together too.
Oh, and how has lockdown been for you guys? Has it made a big impact? Has it created more opportunity or more challenge?
Our main income stream comes from events, and that was probably the first industry to get shut down. I think quite a lot of events were shut down from like March the 17th. So that had a really big impact on us. Our income just went straight down, plummeted. And we had events booked in for April and May, and subsequent ones booked in for October and September. So yeah, I think the first few weeks it was a matter of processing and reflecting. I had the opportunity to furlough myself. I had to let someone go, but it was an amicable decision. And I just had to reflect back and think, what did I want to do and where did I want Dechomai to go forward? I chose not to be furloughed because I knew that if I was to be furloughed, I wouldn't move the enterprise forward, and especially with the vision that we have for Dechomai, the restaurants and bars that we deal with, also had to close, so that was our other income going off. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, it's saying my speaker is not working.
It's gone a little bit crackly.
Is that better?
Oh yeah, it's not a Zoom call without a technical hitch, so don't worry, that's fine. Yeah,
so yeah, we just had to think that I just keep on working even though I wasn't getting paid to work. But we did pivot. We launched our Party in a Box, which is this. One of the things that I realized about lockdown is people will always celebrate. It doesn't matter, even if we're locked in, people have the opportunity to celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, and that's what we did with Party in a Box. So we created a luxury box that people will be able to gift people, and in the box you have different things. So you've got your party snacks, a bottle of wine, some pamper items, candles, and we also have our book of the month. So the book of the month for this month is Start With Why, which I'm sure many of you have read. And also a journal, which I think everybody needs a journal to write their thoughts. So that's what we did during lockdown. And it kept us busy. They really kept us busy and still keep us busy.
Yeah, I think lots of people have come up. So Heather's just kind of put in the chat, I know Heather had a lot of different boxes and lots of different things that happened in terms of, I think the events industry and the hospitality industry were, the biggest, lost out the most, I guess, in all of lockdown, unfortunately. And fingers crossed, when we get the announcement this week, that there may be a bit further kind of opening up for some of you guys. But I think stuff like that, that kind of entrepreneurial mindset and, adapting is what is really important, and hopefully will carry people through this kind of more challenging time. Okay, so I was quite keen to just go back onto some of the other stuff we were going to talk about in terms of Black Lives Matter. And obviously that happened during lockdown as well, which I think, in terms of the kind of meets and the marches and the protesting, that obviously had an impact that way. And I kind of often wonder if that would be different if we didn't have the kind of lockdown restrictions and things in place, how people would have felt about it. But I was really just keen to hear your thoughts on it, Baylie, and if you think it had a positive impact on the kind of fight against racism or not.
I think Black Lives Matters opened up and made people aware of the elephant in the room. Behind the scenes, people of colour will always talk about racism that they've experienced amongst their peers, racism that they'll talk about it in their house, they'll talk about it with their friends, but it's something that they would not openly talk about. I had featured in Black and Scottish, and before I filmed my segment, I met somebody that I've known for years, a well-known Black man in Glasgow, and I told him what I was going to do, and the first thing he said to me was, do not talk about racism. And I said to him, why not? And he said, because if you talk about racism, you're going to stop any opportunity coming your way, because people will always think of you as the troublemaker that spoke about racism and spoke out of turn. we did speak about racism during Black and Scottish, not as much, and lots of editing was done, but it is something that was out there and something that was unspoken. So I think the Black Lives Matter movement highlighted that, and it was like a volcano that just erupted. It was waiting to erupt, and it just erupted. And that's why I think a few people didn't understand why it was such a big deal, but it was people had suppressed emotions, people had held things back, and it was just everything just coming to the open. And I guess if any of you work in counselling, you know, obviously you always encourage people to talk about their feelings, talk about what they're going through. But if you've had years and years of repression and suppression and just holding those emotions down, it just, when it blows, it really does blow. So I think that's why it was seen all over the world, because it was just everybody standing up at the same time and saying, okay, since somebody is speaking, then I'm going to speak too about my experience, and I'm going to share about my experience. But I'm also going to stand up for what has happened to my brother, my sister, and other people. It opened up lots of conversations amongst family members, amongst friends, and I guess amongst work colleagues too.
Yeah, I think it's even in my yoga group, you know, it was like, I think it's kind of affected, or not affected, but it's been spoken about more, which I presume, you know, I take that as a positive thing, that people maybe don't shy away from talking about, you know, those really important issues. And I think it's just really interesting to hear, you know, from you, you know, in terms of there's been, it's gone like a kind of explosion almost, you know, this is, you know, you need to listen to this. And it was kind of like, it was, you were listening to it whether you wanted to or not, which I thought was, I'm quite a fan of that kind of action. So I thought that was good. But I think, I don't know if there's any instances in your own journey where you've maybe come across racism or been affected by it personally.
I think the one thing that I do talk about is a racist incident I experienced at school. So one of the things that I've wanted to share with everyone is there is a conscious and unconscious act of racism, and it might be that you might say something or do something, but it's also the intent behind it. So if the intent is to cause harm, intent to cause a grievance, then yeah, that is blatant racism. But there are others who might say and do things and they just think it's the norm. So they will do things that they're unaware, and maybe they've seen and grown up with it through their family, and it's just filtered down. So the incident I experienced when I was at school, I think I was in third year, and it was a group of us always walked home together, always walked the same way home, and there was banter between the boys and the girls, and I'd said something to one of the guys and he called me a monkey, and then he started making monkey noises. I kept on walking, and then I started to cry because I was like, why? It just really hit me. So I got home, I didn't say much, but one of my friends rang me and she said to me, you need to tell the teachers like what he did to you. Like that was just so wrong. Like, can't believe he did the monkey noises. He just took that step too far. So the next day I went into school, I spoke to my guidance teacher, and they immediately escalated it to the head teacher. This boy was called into the head teacher's office, and they basically told him that he was going to be suspended. He started crying and was like, he basically said that he had no intent to be racist, that it had been a heat of the moment banter, and he didn't realize that it was going to hurt me. He was hysterical, like crying worse than I had been crying, basically. And just at the moment that our parents were getting called, there was like a knock on the door, and it was his best friend. His best friend was Black, and his best friend came in to defend him. And his best friend said that basically he did not believe this guy was racist. He was like, I've eaten in their house, I've spent weekends with his family. There is not a racist bone in this person's body. And he was like, yeah, he was ignorant to have said that. The guy wasn't there at the time when we were walking home. He walked home in a different direction. So he defended his friend, and he actually said, and if anything, he's actually got quite a lot of black friends whose homes he goes to. He was like, he comes to our house, he eats our food, he is not, there's nothing racist about him. So his best friend, from me hearing his best friend, I believe this guy, I believe that it was some childish banter, and we later did become really good friends, and we're still good friends. But I have had other instances where it has not been like that, where I know it was an intent to put me down and to, yeah, just be malicious basically. But I have chosen not to discuss those instances, just because I've also chosen to look for hope. I've chosen to look beyond those situations, because those situations will always hold me back. Those situations will always keep me in that place. But I acknowledge that different people have had different experiences, and they probably just, yeah, they just don't know. I will share this incident actually. A few weeks ago, during the Black Lives Matters heat of the moment, I was going to the post office. I had to post something, and the post office just around the corner from my house. And the postman was there to pick up the letters, and he was talking to, yes, one of the guys that stays local. And they didn't see me coming, and the guy said, I wish they would just shut the F up about this Black Lives Matters issue. I've had enough of it. And then the postman looked up and saw me, and I stood there, looked at the two of them, and just walked into the post office. Post office also got a shop, and it was the weirdest and awkwardest silence in that shop. The woman at the post office was talking to the guy who'd made the comment, and I was behind him. And then she started talking to me because she knows my son. And he was shocked that she was so familiar with me. I think he just thought I was just maybe someone popping by. And then the guy at the counter too, because I got there before the guy, he was asking, where's your son? And I was like, he's in the car. He was like, why didn't you bring him in? He's like, oh, he's like seeing him and blah, blah. And then the guy just he just scuttled out. And I just turned around to him and said, I hope you have a good weekend. That's the way I closed it. So there are still instances like that happening, and more obvious and more prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, thanks for sharing those stories, because they're obviously very personal and emotive, and two very different styles of stories as well. And I was just kind of interested, if you go back to the incident at school with the classmate, did that experience make you think differently and as you were older, in terms of some people's attitudes and maybe what they said? Like, obviously not that horrible guy at the post office, but do you have it sounds like you've got a very kind of measured approach, which is really good, because I don't think I would be that measured. I'm maybe a bit too emotional, and I might react slightly differently. But did that kind of have a bearing on you as you kind of grew up and got older?
To be honest with you, the bearing actually started as I was growing up. My dad would always tell me that as a black woman, I would have to work 3 times as hard to get anywhere and to do anything. A, because I was a woman, and B, because I was black, and also because my age, I was always the youngest person in any circle. So that's why I had to always work 3 times as hard. So I always grew up with that mentality. I grew up with that mindset that everything I did, I had to always work 3 times as hard, always had to put 3 times as effort as anybody else. And it opened up my eyes to the discrimination that I would experience, and the discrimination that was ahead of me.
Yeah, no, someone's put a comment of saying how controlled that is, and I totally agree. And I'm guessing your dad then was quite a positive influence on you, and how you think now in terms of being positive and kind of learning how to deal with that stuff.
No, my dad, no. It was probably more my mum. My mum told me that I had to have faith in a whole, believing in God, and also faith in myself and believing in myself, that I was created for a purpose, and I was created to make a change. So I always believe every woman, every person has got the opportunity to impact this sphere of influence and create a positive change wherever they are. And it's also just who you surround yourself and the people that you have around you that can push you forward in that. Another example that I always use is when Nelson Mandela had been in prison for 27 years. When he was stepping out of jail, he had the opportunity to either avenge everything that had happened to him or to move South Africa forward as a country of hope. And he chose hope. It was a long road to hope. It's still a long road to hope. I've been to South Africa. I see the heartache. I see the pain that Southern Africans have gone through, but he chose to change the nation, and it held the Invictus Games and all these things. We've seen a positive change in South Africa. Even in Rwanda, they went through a genocide, and once again the president chose to move forward with hope. Rwanda is now one of the most bustling countries in the whole of Africa. You would not have, looking at it, you just not know that it's gone through a horrific genocide. Black people against black people, and families, neighbours killing each other just because of the colour of their skin and their caste. But they chose to move forward with hope, and that's what I believe, that we can all move forward with hope, but move forward with purpose and move forward with intent to make a change wherever we go.
Yeah, so what do you think the next kind of step or the next part of Black Lives Matter movement would be? And what do you think would come next after what we've just kind of gone through and experienced?
I think just for those connecting in who don't know, there are two aspects of the Black Lives Matter. There's the hashtag, but there's also the Black Lives Matter movement. So I support the hashtag, but I also, as a whole, I've spoken this with Heather, it's about racism and it's about discrimination for me. And the racism that I'll experience as a Black woman, but then it's the same racism that the Jews were experiencing and have been experiencing over the past few weeks. We've seen that with anti-Semitism. We see that with Asians. There's always some sort of discrimination, and it's highlighting that discrimination and making it more conversations and having the opportunities to talk about it, and also trying to see how we can change different things and changing people's mindsets. One of the instances that I wanted to also share was last year when we were doing publicity viewings for Black and Scottish. We had the opportunity of going to the Glasgow City Chambers, and everybody was there. There was lots of councillors, lots of MPs, so they viewed it, and then after that there was a Q&A with Stuart, the director, and Jean Johansson, who's his cousin. I was there with a few of the other people who'd featured in Black and Scottish, and somebody in the room had inquired about recruitment, and he had said he struggles to recruit people from Black and ethnic backgrounds. He doesn't know where to find them. And this is a national company who have got infrastructure everywhere. So Stuart directed the question to me and said, Baylie will be able to help you with that. So I answered the guy and said, I know plenty of project managers and senior engineers who'd love to work for your company. And it was only at the end, he said to me, oh, that's great, I'll take your details. It was at the end, the counsellor had said to me, you totally took everybody off guard by your answer. And I said, why? And she said, because you could see in his face, he wasn't expecting you to say middle managers and senior managers. He was expecting you to say low skilled workers, and you've hit out with project managers and engineers. And she was like, it's that mindset that people also need to change, that when they meet people from Black and ethnic backgrounds, they're probably expecting them to be of a certain level, of putting them in a box saying that's where they'll be. So it's opening up those boxes and saying, okay, let's have those opportunities, let's afford everyone those opportunities. And in an events illustration, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusivity is being asked to dance, and equality is being part of the party planning committee.
We're going to have to look back at that recording, because I'm going to steal that for something. That's such a good way of putting it, and I'm sure that kind of explains a lot to people, because I think there's and it's a really easy way to do it, because I think there's a lot of words that we use, like equality and diversity, but I think people have different ideas of what they mean, or maybe don't understand and maybe aren't confident enough to ask what it is. So yeah, that's great. We'll need to find some way to record that and use that. That's really useful. Someone's put a comment, Angie's put a comment here just to say about reminding, that you're reminding us that everyone's got their own kind of personal sphere of influence and the opportunity to impact that. So I guess there's a kind of message for everyone, isn't there, that everyone's got their own part to play, no matter what they do or who they are in life. There's a part to play there, and she has pointed out that you've influenced her personally. So I think she just wanted to say that publicly. But I think there's loads of really good stuff there. And I'm just being mindful of time for things, because I think we could probably talk about this all morning. It's been very interesting. But I think, what's next for you and what's next for your business? Are you going to be more involved in some things like Black and Scottish? How do you see that kind of stuff panning out for you?
So we're wanting to do more with the Scottish hospitality industry. So I've also got my lovely friend and business partnership partner, Susan O'Neill, who's joining us. And Susan has launched Inclusive, which is an opportunity to create opportunities for people from varied backgrounds, and it's for all over the UK. And Susan herself has got experience in the wine industry, and we met each other through social media, and she's just been highlighting the lack of diversity in the Scottish hospitality industry, especially for management roles and senior roles. So we're just looking to partner in a few future events together. And also, I think one of the things that I realised when the Black Lives Matter incident happened was, yes, we're asking everyone to look around themselves and think, am I doing enough? Am I making myself inclusive and diverse? And that's something that I had to do too. I was talking about, well, opportunities, but I also had to put myself forward and also join places like here, this wonderful women's network, because I was thinking, if I'm looking for opportunities, then I need to also have the confidence and capability to join networking opportunities, because I can't say the opportunity is not there for me if I'm not even attempting to go. So that's one of the reasons why I joined here, to say, okay, let me network with women, let me see what opportunities there are. And it has been an amazing journey being on this platform. Yeah, I joined during lockdown, but I can't wait to meet everybody physically, because I see you guys posting everything. Jen, I always see you posting things, so it's really good to always connect like this. So I'm looking forward to what Scottish Women in Business are doing and just the future ahead. It has been something that I've been back and forth, should I join, should I not join? But I'm glad I've joined during lockdown, because I can just see so much potential for when things do ease up. So I think it's just to encourage anybody that will be watching this after to, if you are from a Black and ethnic background, join a network, be the change, start being the change yourself. Don't just expect others to change. You need to do something too.
That's great. We're very pleased that you're part of the network now, and hopefully see more events and things going on. And I know lockdown's been an interesting time for people, so making that commitment is really appreciated. And thanks very much for joining us today. I just wanted to ask if there were any final questions before I let you all go. Thanks to everyone who's put questions in so far. Remy, hi Remy, has just said, it's more of a statement, I guess, that equality for all shouldn't be a controversial issue. It's our human right, but which is interesting, because that's completely true, but it's controversial for people, isn't it, to even mention it and talk about it. So yeah, I guess we've all got our own part to play in how that changes. Okay. Sorry.
I've got a question for you, Baylie, if that's okay. So obviously the Black Lives Matters movement was a positive movement in raising awareness, but it did throw up a lot of confusion for people, particularly on social media, because a lot of people were they put their black squares, they put the hashtag Black Lives Matters, and everyone I think was trying to do their best to support where they could. But then there was a negative side to it, that was blocking up like really important feeds of information, and doing it for one day isn't enough. So obviously there's, I think there's more positive than negative out of it. But going forward, if people do want to support, is there a better way of doing it, or a better thing, a way of calling it rather than Black Lives Matter? Or do you think it's got enough positivity behind it to keep it going?
I think for what it did, as you said, it raised awareness, but there is still quite a lot of work to be done. For the first 3 weeks after the protests in Glasgow Green, there was still talk about Black Lives Matter and racism and inequality. As you can see, it has died down a little bit, and as you said, there was confusion and controversy over you're not doing enough. So I think it's still an ongoing process. It's for ourselves as business owners to have a look internally and see, well, how can we be helping this, and even collaborating with other organisations, and just always continually looking at us ourselves and looking at others, and even provoking others. You might think you're inclusive, but you might notice that another organisation is not inclusive. That's why I love Susan, because she's contacted like top champagne companies, top wine companies, and said, in your advertising, I've noticed that it's all white. What are you doing to be more diverse? What are you doing to attract more people in your organisation? And she has not stopped. Like, Susan's not stopped doing it, and she's written so many articles for like Scottish Licensed Trade News, the Drab magazine, and she's just keeps going. I speak to her like once a week, and she's done this, spoken so and so, and she's keeps nudging and poking people and provoking them to have a look at themselves. And I think that's something that we can all do, is just have a look around us. It might be we can't do anything, we might not be doing anything, but how can we impact other people? And even just, are you available to give somebody an opportunity for employment? If you are, then please contact myself, and I'd love to put a few people in touch with you. There's so many people out there looking for jobs, but they've just not had the opportunity. One of my other friends who's connecting, Angie, she's got 2 masters. I don't know anyone who's got 2 masters, and she will testify that she struggled to get job after job after job, even though she was overqualified for certain jobs that she applied for. But it is, once again, the connections of knowing people who can give you that opportunity. So you might know somebody who's looking to recruit people. Would you recruit somebody from a Black and ethnic background first and give them their first job, so that they can say, that person, that stranger gave me their first job because they just thought I deserved an opportunity?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So like I said, I work in recruitment and have done for quite a while. I also recruit, I mainly work with the third sector and recruit onto boards for quite a lot of the work I do. So if you do know anyone who's struggling to get a job, then please let me know. I'd be able to even give them some tips. I don't have any roles for them, I can maybe even help them with some hints and tips and stuff. So I'm more than happy to speak to anyone like that, if that helps or not at all. I don't know.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm sure Angie will be knocking on your door. I can see the smile on her face.
Just connect in with me on LinkedIn or something, and I'll we can have a chat at the very least. No problem. Okay, so I think, like I say, I think we could probably go on for a lot longer, but I think that's been really, really interesting, Baylie, and I think we could probably have another event on this by itself at some point in the near future, but hopefully we'll get to meet you in person and see you along at some sort of in-person event, and that goes to everyone as well. In terms of what SWIB are doing, we're going to remain online for the moment. I guess we don't have much of a choice in that matter, but we're hoping at least towards the end of the year we can maybe start thinking about doing something in person again. So we will keep you all updated, but for now, Baylie, thanks very much. We can't really do the big
Thank you everyone for joining, appreciate it.
No, not at all. Thanks very much everyone for joining us this morning, and we will hopefully see you at the next event. Thanks. Bye-bye.